Welcome everybody to the Sideline Speaks. Brittany Jones, Kevin Walker, Jason Collins. As you can see, no Brittany Jones tonight. Britt's not feeling great, so we're wishing her a speedy recovery. She'll be back next week. So me and K Walk gonna hold this thing down tonight. K Walk, what's going on, man? How you doing?
All is well, Jay. All is well for the most part. Looking forward to another great one. My Niners, man, it's rough. That's why I'm wearing my
Yeah,
Gators gear, Jay, to keep some type of spirits, keep my spirits up some in some way, form or
yep,
fashion.
yep. I got you, man. Gators looking good. Niners not so much, but we're gonna
Right. Hey,
definitely talk
Sandy. Hey,
about your
Sean.
Niners tonight. But
Yeah.
gotta say what's up to Sandy and Sean. Appreciate you
Appreciate
guys
you, guys.
joining
For
us. What's
sure.
going on, Sandy? What's going on, Sean? Good to see you guys with us.
For sure.
Um, yeah, K Walk, we got a lot to get into tonight, man. But I want to kind of take a bit of a different turn. I want to start with college football, man. We're
Yeah.
kind of getting up. We got conference championships coming up this weekend. We're going to talk some NFL a little bit later on, of course. But there were some big college football games this weekend, man. Emotions were running hot.
Ooh.
Things spilled over, some after the game
Yeah.
activities
Yeah.
and altercations. Just a lot to get into. And man, as we both have on our TVs right now, the latest college football rankings are about
Yeah.
to come out. So we definitely want to talk about that too.
Yeah.
But let's start kind of in the center of the college football universe, man.
Yeah.
Michigan versus Ohio State this
Wow.
weekend. I think everyone, man, going into this thing felt like Michigan was going to lose this game. Ohio State was the clear better team. But as they say, K Walk, that's why they play the games.
Exactly.
Michigan
Exactly.
pulls off the huge upset. Break it down. What were your thoughts on this game, and how does Ohio State let this one get away?
Yeah, Jay, you mentioned it. I'm one of those people who thought that Ohio State, was going to pull this out. I know Michigan was what they won three in a row, but that was under Harbaugh, the regime of Harbaugh, and I thought Ohio State, and going into this game, Jay, that Ohio State was the best team in the country, even though they had that loss against Oregon earlier in the season. I really thought that this team was the best team in the country at that last Saturday. But it's all predicated on the play of Will Howard, man, and it just seems like in crucial games, big time games, and in crucial situations, he doesn't rise to the occasion. He does the opposite. He folds his tent, if you will. We saw it in the game against Oregon, that last play where he slides for the first down. I mean, he slides with just no time on the clock instead of getting rid of the ball or getting out of bounds or what have you. And then we saw what he did on Saturday against Michigan. So, Michigan, I mean, that was a well played game by both. Both teams had great game plans. Both teams executed for the most part. Michigan came out and turned it into their type of game where they wanted to own the line of scrimmage. That's what they're about. Even, when before Harbaugh was there, during Harbaugh's time there, and of course it's going to be like that. And I just thought that their receivers, I just thought the Ohio State receivers were going to be the difference in the game, but they can only do so much if the quarterback is not up to par, man. So just hats off to Michigan and what they were able to do. I know we're going to get into the antics after that, but as far as the game goes, just this shows you that your team is only as good as your quarterback play there, man. And Will Howard is just, he's shown that he can't do it up until this point in big time situations.
Yeah, I definitely think there's plenty of criticism to go around to Will Howard for sure. But I think too, man, like you kind of alluded to, Michigan played that game on their terms. They were
Yes.
like, look, we know if we get into a track meet with these guys, we have
Hmm.
absolutely no chance. We're going to make this a physical, in the box kind of football game. Let's make it a street fight because we believe that we're tougher than you.
Yeah.
The part with Ohio State where I thought they made a mistake, and I agree with your point 100% about Will Howard
Hmm.
not being hard, not even having a good game for Will Howard standards. But I thought Ohio State was a little bit stubborn at some points. They continued to try to run the ball
Yeah. Yeah.
that outstanding defensive front of Michigan. And I just thought that was a mistake. Even if you got those great receivers, throw it out there. Maybe you're going to get a PI. Maybe one of them's going to make a great play. But I felt like they didn't give those guys a chance. and Michigan forced them to play the game on their terms. So
Yeah.
hats off to Michigan, man. They did
Yeah, for sure.
win that game 4 years in a row now, which
Yeah.
K Walk has people talking about Ryan Day. Now, this is
Mhm.
a guy who doesn't really lose to anyone else. I mean,
Yeah.
I think his record's like 45-1 against the rest of the
Hmm.
Big Ten. That one being the loss to Oregon this year. Um, but he's lost 4 in a row to Michigan, and people are
Yeah.
calling for his head. Ohio State people want him fired. Fans want him fired. What say you about Ryan Day, K Walk? Can he keep the job at Ohio State, or does he need to go because he can't beat Michigan?
Yeah, Jay, you mentioned his record, 45-1. That's not record you want to, other than Michigan against other than teams against other than Michigan. You just don't like, it's the age old saying for me, it's just these big time coaches, these national championship coaches, they just don't fall out of a tree if you shake it. You know what I mean? I mean, you got this guy, granted, he has that one hill that he can't get over, that Michigan hill. We
Yes.
know that. Jay, you know that Penn State
Yeah.
is Ohio. It can't get
Yep.
over that Ohio State hill, if
Yep.
you will. So but when you look at his record overall, Jay, he's got a chance to win. He's in each and every one of those games. It's just a matter of a play here, a play there that determines the outcome for Ryan Day. So I don't think you get rid of a coach like that. What coach are you going to go out there and get that you have right off of the bat that you can think of that's going to, be able to, have that same record? We said it was 45-6 or 45-5, whatever the record is, including Michigan. That's not a bad record to have. That's not a bad record to have. But you got to find a way to get over that hump. There's a lot of coaches out there that have that one Achilles, or not Achilles heel, that one team or that one bump that they can't get over. Oh, wow. Just looking at Miami, I can't believe Miami.
Yeah, I was just writing it down so I wouldn't forget
man.
where they were. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't think you get rid of them. I think they keep them for one more year. Maybe if it happens for a fifth straight year, then then maybe there's some talks about maybe he just can't get it done. But yeah, that Miami, that shocked me right there, Jay.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that in just
for
a
sure.
minute. But yeah, I agree with you, K Walk. Like, if you're gonna fire Ryan Day, like, who are you going to get? Like, who's this great coach that's sitting out there waiting in the wings? Look, I understand, like, that's a huge rivalry, maybe the biggest rivalry in college football, probably the biggest rivalry in college football, and he's fallen short 4 years in a row. But I just don't think you pull the trigger and fire this guy, man, because who are you going to get? And with this new expanded 12-team playoff, Ohio State's in the playoff. They're going to be in the playoff. They still have everything in front of them. They could still win a national championship.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say, I heard somebody make this point earlier, and I do agree with it. If you want to kind of say that Ryan Day needs to go, one fair argument that I think is you can make the argument that every game he goes into that he's got the better roster.
Yeah.
And to keep coming up short against Michigan when you have the better roster, that might be the only argument, because it's not like he's losing and saying, well, you know what, they just had a better team than we had. He's got the horses.
Yeah.
He's got to figure it out. But even with that being said, I would not fire Ryan Day. I think Ohio State needs to keep him. I think they'd be crazy to fire him with all the success that he's had. All right, let's get to the after game antics, K-Walk. We got flags trying to be planted, fights breaking out. Just give me your overall thoughts on the whole melee after the Michigan-Ohio State game.
Yeah, Jay, when you watch the game and, obviously the way Will Howard ended it, he's got to be frustrated. And then you saw the planting of the flag and the pushing, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I was ready to turn the channel. So it was just like, it's some scuffles. It's understandable that they have to have a little scuffle. They lost at home, they planted the flag. I get it. But then it kept going on, Jay, and then it kept expanding, meaning like, there's guy looking at all over the screen, and there's every angle that you look or every corner of the TV that you look, someone was in some type of altercation. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is really crazy. So I turned away from it. I just turned my head and started watching another game. So I look back to see if the next game or if the postseason was over. I mean, the post game was over, and I look over there, and it's getting worse. I'm like, well, what is going on here? So I paid a little bit more attention to it, and then, it just got crazy, Jay, and crazier and crazier. And when you look at it, aftermath, they said that pepper spray had to be used to break
Yeah.
this up. And at first, I thought that was a little extreme, but then you look at it when I'm looking at it live, I can when you hear it after the fact and you go back and relive it. I'm like, oh yeah, I think that's probably the only thing that could have calmed those dudes down, man, because those dudes weren't listening to anybody. Coaches weren't strong enough to keep these dudes apart. And but I understand it, but at the same time, you have to understand this is part of the game. But these, like we talked about it last night, Jay, on Coach's show, that this is the new day and age. Back in the day, it wouldn't have gotten this far. It would have been some pushing and shoving, but wouldn't it got to the point where pepper spray had to be used in order to break these guys up. But overall, Jay, it's just like I have no problem with the planting of the flag. It's tradition for the most part. It's a rivalry game, but all that extra stuff is just too much. And it just seems to me like staying these young men in this day and age, this generation, they could dish it out, but they can't take it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. There's so much taunting and showboating. And
Yeah,
after I catch a 5-yard pass, I stand up and do the first down signal.
yeah,
After I make a team tackle, after a
yeah.
guy gains 5 yards, I'm
Hmm.
celebrating like I just had a tackle for a loss. Like the
Right.
celebrations after routine
Yeah.
plays, it drives me crazy. Okay, well,
Yeah,
it's
Jay.
like
Yeah.
that's what you're supposed to do. You are
Right.
supposed to defend a pass. You don't have to block somebody because the
Lock them
ball was
on, right?
thrown 10 yards over your
Jay.
head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sick of that too. But you're right. Then when the tables turn and someone wants to plant a
Yeah.
flag on your field, now everybody becomes a tough guy. So
Yeah.
I definitely felt like it was a bad look. I mean, the
Yeah.
fights, not just in the Michigan Ohio State game, but all over college football on Saturday was
Florida,
just a
Florida, Florida
really
State.
bad look.
Mhm.
Really, really bad look. But again,
Yeah.
I'm kind of with you. I don't really care. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to see it not happen, but at the end of the day, it's not something that I really have a whole lot of emotions about either way.
Right.
All right, good stuff, K Walk. Let's get into these. Let's get into these rankings, man. I'm kind of looking at them right now. I
Yeah.
know you've got it pulled up as well.
Yeah.
Um, Looking at the top 12, let's just start there. Is there
Yeah.
anything that jumps out to you right now with these latest rankings in terms of the top 12 teams that have been ranked so far?
Yeah, Jay, I think we kind of touched on it a little bit. Kind of get tip my hand a little bit. That number 12, that 12 spot with Miami is a head scratcher for me. I thought that they should have been out of it, and I don't see them going anywhere other than 12. I don't see them going higher or lower because they have a bowl game, but well, it's going to be their championship because they don't play another game.
Right.
They're not in the ACC championship, so that means to me that they're in. They want to see them in. I don't think they want to hear this year what they heard last year about Florida, the Florida State situation. So I think they put them at 12, keep them there, keep the fan base quiet. Oh, we can play with the best. They feel like that's where they should be. I'm just looking at these other teams too. Yeah, that's the only head scratcher. I thought they would fall out of that top 20. I mean, that top 12. To be perfectly honest with you, but if they were out, then they wouldn't be able to move up because they're not playing another game until the playoff game is. So
Yeah.
that's the only one. Looking at the other ones, Jay, I'm good with it. I'm good with it overall because there are some games that are going to be played, as far as child conference championships, which will determine, which will be some shuffling there for sure.
Yeah, looking at the bracket, it looks like, especially if Arizona State wins their championship game, the
Yeah,
bracket looks like it will have Miami out in that scenario. But you're right. If they hang around that 12 spot, depending on how
yeah,
some of these games fall, the Hurricanes definitely aren't out of it. And I think a lot of people thought they would be coming into
yeah,
this weekend. What about
yeah,
Alabama, K Walk? It looks like they're going to, it looks like they're going to get in. I think they're ranked
yeah,
11 right now. I'm looking at the bracket. It looks like they're
yeah.
going to get in. Um, what are your thoughts about 3-loss Alabama being involved in this playoff?
Yeah, Jay, we talked about this a few weeks ago, and I said I felt like a three-loss AC three-loss SEC team would get in, and I had a feeling that would happen, and it's just proves me right. And Alabama hasn't been impressive at all. Being 8-3 or or 9-3, 8-3. 8-3, 9-3, but nonetheless, this is how I thought it would play out, Jay. When it came down to the SEC, and I felt in my heart that a three-loss SEC team would get in. So I'm not surprised. Right? Do I think they should be there? Yeah, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I thought once a team hit 3 losses, and I know SEC people are going to say, "Oh, their
Yeah,
schedule, tougher,
that's
all that stuff." Look,
yep,
if you're that good, don't lose 3 times. Like I'll
yeah,
give you one. I'll even give you a loss to some good teams. But Alabama lost to they lost to Vandy. They had
mm-hmm.
Oklahoma dominated. Like it's
Yeah,
not like they were
yeah,
losing to Texas and Georgia. You know what I mean? So
facts.
I figured at 2K Walk that they would get the benefit of the doubt, but I'm a little surprised at a 3 loss ball club that they're in. I
Yeah,
understand they have some good wins too. I mean, they did beat
yeah,
Georgia. I mean,
yeah.
so that is a good win for Alabama, but I'm not willing to overlook the losses, I guess, as other people are. Another
Mm-hmm.
team that we'll touch on, K Walk, is Notre Dame, because we were talking just kind of through messaging and
Yeah,
stuff if we thought they would jump Penn State. Right
yeah.
now, Penn State's still holding at 3. Notre
Three.
Dame is
I
holding at
relax.
4.
Four.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't have been surprised if it had flip flopped. Notre Dame has looked really impressive.
Yeah.
Any issue with Notre Dame at 4, Penn State still at 3?
I don't, Jay, because I think Penn State has that opportunity to move up. So that's why the committee put them there, because Penn State's obviously playing in a Big Ten championship, and I
Yeah,
think if they win that against Oregon, I think you have to you put them there. But if they lose, then obviously they'll fall. I don't think that they'll fall out of the 12 spot or anything like that. But I think they put Notre Dame at 4 because of that reason, because of Penn State's situation, which they pretty much control their own destiny. But if they
yeah.
mess that up, then they have a legitimate right to put Notre Dame ahead of Penn State.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what the committee does with teams that are playing an extra game when other
Yeah,
people are sitting at home. And
yeah,
if you lose that game, are you going to be punished for playing the extra game? Or are they
yeah.
just
That's
going
what
to
I'm saying.
say, hey, you were in the championship game. We're not going to punish you too
Yeah,
much for losing? That's going to be interesting to see how the committee plays that out. I love the fact that look, I was okay with Penn State not being in the Big Ten championship,
I know, right? It
resting,
helps you. It helps
healing
you. Yeah,
up, playing a playoff game at home. All
yeah,
that was fine. But now that we're in, I'm kind of excited about it. Okay, Walk. Everything I've read, no one is giving Penn State a chance.
yeah.
Everyone's saying
Of course not.
Oregon's going to absolutely destroy them.
Mm-hmm.
Great. That's what everyone's expecting. Hopefully, we can go out and play a heck of a game and pull it off, man. But
Yeah.
I think we're going to be in a pretty good position either way, no matter how that turns out. Okay, well, last team I will talk about, then we'll move on. Indiana is firmly in this thing, the ninth
Oh yeah.
seed. Right now, the way the bracket shakes, they would be going up against Georgia in the first round. But
Mhm.
Indiana firmly in this thing with just one
Yeah.
loss to Ohio State. How do you feel about Indiana?
I like it, Jay. A lot of people say, they shouldn't be there because they lost to Ohio State, who eventually lost to Michigan, and Ohio State hasn't really looked that good. They haven't blown anyone out, in as far as conference games, things of that nature, and things of that nature. So I think Indiana, the way that they play, their body of work, it warrants them to be in the top 12, even though they lost the way that they lost to Ohio State. They showed glimpses. A lot of people didn't watch them fully,
Yeah,
unless you're just a diehard and you bleed college football. You didn't really watch Indiana until they
yeah,
played Ohio State,
yeah.
and I think that's not the Indiana that we've seen for the most part this throughout the season. So I like it. I think that's an appropriate spot for them. Gives them the opportunity to move forward in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I think Indiana's better than people realize. Yes, they
Yeah,
lost to Ohio State, but if you actually watch them play, they are well
yeah,
coached, have a
really,
really good football team. They play good, sound,
yeah,
fundamental football. I think Indiana's better than people think. They might surprise some people in the playoff if
Yeah,
they get the right matchup. All right,
exactly.
good stuff. Okay, well, let's kind of move on. Let's jump over to the NFL because we got some topics to get into. Let's start with Britt's Eagles, even though she's not here. They beat the Ravens on
Yeah,
Sunday. Man, the Eagles, as much as I hate to say it,
yeah,
they're
man,
they're
me
kind
too.
of making a case, man, for maybe. I mean, I don't want to say the best team in the league, but I think if you started making a list, you wouldn't get to too many teams before you had to put the Eagles in there.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the Eagles? Number one, and number two, what were your thoughts on the game against the Ravens this weekend?
Yeah, it pains me to say, Jay. We all know if you know I'm not an Eagles fan by any stretch of the imagination. The fan base kind of rubs me the wrong way, but I have to call a spade, Jay. I know football. I feel like I know football when I see it, regardless of how I feel about the team or the fan
Yeah.
base. They look good, Jay. I mean, they look good. I mean, you that look like that Vic Fangio defense is solid. A lot of people say, well, if Justin Tucker was Justin Tucker, it'd be a different outcome. He missed what, three field goal or two field goals and an extra point. Uncharacteristic characteristic of Justin Tucker there. But overall, if you take all that out of the equation, I mean, they look good. They held Derrick Henry in check. They held Lamar Jackson in check for the most part. They took away a lot of his weapons. A lot of people were saying Lamar was holding the ball, but that had to do with downfield coverage. And surprisingly, the secondary played really, really well for
Yes.
the Eagles, and I thought that was their Achilles heel on the defensive end. I think their front seven is one of the best front sevens in the game, even though they lost their edge rusher Graham for the year. They said he may be back, but I think they have to get to the Super Bowl, which it's not far fetched to be honest with you, the way they're playing
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I thought they looked good. They had a game plan, and they went out there and they executed that RPO that Kellen Moore threw in there. It was a totally different difference maker. They held Barkley in check for the most part, but you know what they say, Jay. You don't have to be great all the time. You just have to be great when you need to be. And Barkley was great when he needed to be, and they did an excellent job of executing that RPO for sure.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. The thing I like about the Eagles, and again, I don't, I mean, they can
Yeah,
they can beat you different ways. They
yeah,
can beat you different ways. Like it might be
hmm
Saquon ripping one off for 60 or 70.
hmm
Those receivers might get going. That defensive front might start controlling the game. Like they got a couple of different ways they can beat you. So if their A game isn't there, or if plan A isn't there, they can go to
right.
plan B or plan C. So
hmm
I really think that makes Philly a dangerous team going
Yeah,
forward.
without question.
Um, this is 5 losses now, K-Walk, for the Ravens. Any concern there? I mean, that's a
Yeah,
lot of people's Super Bowl pick coming into the year. This
yeah.
is loss
Well,
number 5. Any concern for the Ravens, or is this just the typical flow of an NFL season?
I don't know, Jay, because you want to get the feeling, if they're at, what they're 8-5, I think they are. No, not 8-5. I think they're 8-5. What have you? 5 lost teams, so that's 8-5. So when you look at it and you look at how they lost and who they lost to, it's just kind of one of those things like, well, maybe they're just cruising through the season. Maybe they're, just they're gearing up for the playoffs. We're going to see a different Ravens team because we saw in the last few years, Jay, that they been really good in the playoffs. Lamar MVP after MVP, and then you got John Harbaugh doing this thing. I don't know, Jay. I want to say this is not the team that we saw that they truly are, but there's so many different signs with this team. There's such an enigma. I think they're better than their record indicates. I know the age-old saying is your record is, you are who your record says you are. But I think they're a lot
Yeah.
better than this. And I don't know if they're tipping their hand or what have you, Jay. But this is not the team that I thought that was going to come in, especially after losing to Kansas City, last season. And the first game of the season, they were a toenail away from beating the
Yeah.
Chiefs. Um, I don't know, Jay. It's hard to put my hand on this team to be perfectly honest with you, but I trust him. I believe in Lamar. I think he'll shine, and that run game with Derrick Henry and you got Mark Andrews and his receivers and with Flowers, Likely, all those guys. and I think the defense will come up big. So I'm confident in them, Jay. I think they come out of the. I think they go back to the AFC Championship. Let's put it that way. I'll
Okay.
take them that
Okay.
far. I'll take them that far.
Man, I saw somebody say this a few weeks ago. I was like, I gotta ask K Walk about this when I get the chance. Somebody said, like, does Lamar need to win a Super Bowl in order to be considered great? Or does Lamar need to win a Super Bowl for his legacy? So, like, if he just continues to be the great player that he's been, but never gets it done, what does that say about his does he need it for his legacy? Does he need it to be considered a great player?
Yeah, I think he needs a Jay to be considered one of the greatest of all time. Not the greatest of all time, but in the conversation. I know he's not
Okay.
going to be the but he'll be in that conversation because we've seen some of the players back in the day. We've seen the Dan Marinos, who put up the numbers, the Warren Moons, those guys, those type of guys in basketball. It's Charles Barkley, the guys that are MVPs, guys that are, all pro each and every season. They get to, the conference championship or they get to the finals, but they don't win it. And you don't talk about them because of the fact of the matter is one of the biggest criteria is when we start talking about the greatest of all time. First thing we lead off with is Super Bowls or
Yep.
championships, I should say.
Yep.
Championships. So yeah, to answer the question, Jay, I say all that to answer the question to say, yeah, I think he needs it. I think he knows it. I hope he doesn't put too much pressure on himself. I know he was a leading candidate going as far as the MVP, is what, third or fourth going into that game against the Eagles. And the way Josh Allen, I know we're going to talk about them, but the way he played against the Eagles and the way Josh Allen played against the 49ers, he may have lost some ground there, if not the lead, in my opinion. But he definitely needs it, though.
I agree. Like, if he's going to be in the conversation, like you said, not the greatest of all time, I don't think he can. I don't think he can get there. But if he wants to be in the conversation of the all-time great QBs, he's going to have to win one. Because you're right. Like, people talk about Dan Marino, like, the quick release, the arm, but he never comes up when we're talking about the greatest of all time. Warren Moon is another great example, probably highly underrated, but if he had a couple Super Bowls behind his name, it would be a totally different conversation around a guy like Warren Moon. So I agree too, man. I think he's going to have to find a way to win one or two if he wants to be in that conversation of all-time great quarterbacks. But I don't. He's a great player now. I don't think there's anything that's going to change that. But if he wants to be in that upper room, so to speak, he's going to have to figure out a way to win one. All right, K-Walk, let's talk about your 49ers, man. Whew. First of all,
let's not Jay say we did. Let's not say we did.
The snow game, man, that was great. I mean, I've played in snow. You've played in snow. The snow games are very interesting, man. But let's talk about the Niners, man. Like, are you ready to throw in the towel in this season, K-Walk, or do you still feel like there's hope in San Francisco? Let me ask that first.
Yeah, Jay, I'm never ready to throw until they're mathematically eliminated. And you see that E next to their name or next to the team name in the standings, I'm never going to count them out, Jay. They still have a small, an outside chance of winning the division. It's going to take a lot. They have a a bit of a tough schedule coming up. They do have the Bears Sunday, which we feel like is a winnable game. We lost CMC for the year, for the most part, 6 weeks, which is essentially for the year. The way the 49ers are playing, just call it the year. Then to lose the backup, Jordan Mason. He's on the IR, so that's 4 games there. So you got a rookie toting the rock there, and Garendo it doesn't look good, Jay. And the game itself, man, I mean, that snow game was just it was just outrageous, man. It's football, and a lot of people say, well, the 49ers aren't used to that. I don't think the Bills are used to that either. That type of weather. It snows. It snows, it gets cold. We all know that, but that type of weather, no one plays on that. No one plays in that, every year. Maybe one game, season, but no, the Bills were just a better team. I mean, No, if it would have been any different, had it probably been worse for the 49ers had it been, clear skies and 29 degrees, I think that snow gave us, some type of a chance, but you saw how quickly
Yeah,
that dissipated. But yeah, I mean, overall, Jay, it's just a team that's devastated with injuries and personal stuff. I mean, look at Trent Williams. I mean, Trent Williams just lost his twins, his
man.
newborn twins. It's like if anything can go wrong. I mean, I guess the writing was on the wall. We should have seen that coming when the rookie Ricky Pearsall was
Yeah,
shot in
yeah.
he shot in camp, and then you have
So many things, man.
Travarius Ward loses his 1-year-old daughter, and then all these injuries start to mount up. It's like there's a cloud for over whatever, a black cloud over the 49ers for whatever reason. Maybe it's me. I don't know, man. I don't know. But I just don't know what it is, Jay. But yeah, it's tough, and these guys are still playing hard, man. And we're not seeing the same Debo that we've seen in previous years either. So it's rough right now, Jay. But they're taking it one game at a time, and they feel like they still have an outside chance. They have a chance to win the division. So they're hanging their hats on that, and then they're going. They're going. They're all in. Jay. They're all in.
Yeah.
No
And
one's
as
giving up.
we talked about last week, man, because of the state of the division, they're not out of it. You know what I
Nah,
mean? They
not at
they
all.
they absolutely could still win the division. So
Yeah,
there's still hope in San Francisco. It's just like you said, man, the injuries, you just couldn't, like, no one could have guessed this. Like if you're
yeah,
if
that's
you're
crazy.
writing a movie and someone made all these bad things happen to one
Hmm.
organization, people be like, that's just too much. It's not believable.
Yeah.
But it has happened to the 49ers this year, man. So
Hey Jay, I'm gonna blame myself for this one because remember last year I said I guarantee the 49ers will win the Super Bowl barring a major injury.
I
I should have kept
remember.
my mouth shut. I should have kept my mouth shut, man. I should have
I
kept my mouth
remember. I
shut.
remember, man. All right, K Walk. Moving on, man. The Pittsburgh Steelers. They must have heard us talking about them last week
Yeah,
when we said they couldn't
yeah.
score points and they were kicking
Mhm.
field goals and all that stuff. Because they come out, would they hang 44 on the Bengals, I think,
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
How impressed were you with the Steelers' performance and the way that Russell Wilson is playing quarterback?
From the offensive standpoint, Jay, I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed in the way that they went about it. It turned into to be a shootout, with these guys, and we were talking about how that defense was kind of keeping them in games, but it was opposite. It was the offense that was keeping them in games. If you go in there and say that the Bengals before the game, the Bengals were going to score what they scored 35, I think it was 30, 28, whatever it
Uh,
was.
Maybe 38, somewhere in that
Yeah,
range.
you'll say that the Steelers got blown out because they can't play that type of game. But like you said, they proved us wrong. And Russell Wilson, look, he was on point. I mean, he was moving. He was very mobile, not to be a scrambler, but to extend the play and get the ball out to various guys. So I excellent, man. I mean, just excellent. They were able to adjust to the type of game that was ready to be played, and it's shocking to me. I'm not surprised that the Bengals scored as many points as
Yeah.
they did because they have Joe Burrow, they have T Higgins, they have Jamar Chase, and those guys. But when you look at, like you mentioned, when we looked at the previous games against that Pittsburgh played in, including Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, you didn't see a lot of points being scored. It just seems like it was one of those games where, the quarterback just manages the game, defense keeps him in the game, and then, maybe a field goal or two will win the game. We've seen them win a game by kicking 6 field goals, I think it was. So yeah, it looks like they can play in, like you mentioned, the Eagles. They could beat you so many different ways. Maybe the
Yeah.
Pittsburgh Steelers are trying to say we can do that as well.
Yeah, and K Walk, it seems like every week there's another George Pickens incident. Like no matter what it is, K Walk, is this guy,
Yeah,
is he going to do something stupid to hurt the Steelers in an important game at some point? Do they got to get this guy under control, man? He seems like he's like
yeah,
walking right on the line of just losing it. Like what? Give me
yeah.
give me your thoughts on Pickens, man.
Yeah, Jay, we talked about this. I think it was 2 weeks ago when we were on. We were talking about the Steelers and how we felt about it. And I said, well, if the Steelers could make a deep run, but if anything derails them, it would be George Pickens because George Pickens is a receiver first and foremost. I'm a former receiver. Some of the antics
Yep.
that I had, when I was younger. So he just taking it to another level, and that's why I call these guys wide divas, man. And but he's taking this to too far, Jay. He's just making it all about him. And I know that's what generally receivers do, but you see receivers say, get me the ball.
Yeah.
Keyshawn Johnson has a book out, throw me the damn ball, that type
Yep.
deal. That I understand. But this guy, man, he's such a head case. And to steal Mike Tomlin's terms, he's got a lot of growing up to do, Jay.
Yes.
And it's just
Yes.
ridiculous how bad this guy is when it comes to when it comes to his emotions and how he can't control them. And I mean, he's a really great receiver,
Yeah.
Jay. He's
Absolutely.
really talented, and he can make some crazy catches. We've seen it, but if you get into his face or you get into his head, and something doesn't go his way, we've seen that. After the game, on Sunday. So yeah, he's got a lot of growing up to do, Jay. And I just don't. think that's the best way to describe this young man.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, man. My fear with him is that the Steelers are going to be in a playoff game late, and he's going to get a personal foul or
Yeah,
unsportsmanlike conduct, something like that that's really going to hurt this football team. He has got to get himself together
yeah,
going forward, man, because those are kind of things that can cost you a game.
yeah,
So I really think he's got to figure it out, K Walk.
yeah.
Um, another week, the Falcons lose another
Wow.
heartbreaking game. Kirk Cousins throws 4 interceptions. Is it time for the Michael Penix Jr. experiment to begin in Atlanta, K Walk, or does Kirk Cousins need to continue to be a starting quarterback?
It's funny you asked this question, Jay, because I'm going to talk about this at nauseum tomorrow night on my show. But Sports Talk with K Walkie, Scott Lee Jones, shameless plug. But yeah, I'm going to pose that, Jay. I think it's time to go with that. And I read something earlier that they're talking about trading Kirk Cousins, and he's open to doing it at the end of the season. So if you're talking about it and he's acknowledging it, I think you pull the plug. I don't say pull the plug. I think you make that change now because of the fact of the matter, they're in a perfect position right now to win that division, which
Yeah.
ultimately gets you into the playoffs. They're ahead, I think, by 1 or 2 games, and yeah, why not? You got a couple games to play with, if you will. And he looked good in I think it was like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. Meaning Penix looked good when they took Kirk Cousins out. So I mean, he has some zip on the ball. We've seen him in Washington. We've seen him how he can get that ball out quickly. He's somewhat mobile.
Yep.
So he can extend the play and get the ball downfield as well. I say he does it. I say they do it, man. I really think they should do it now, not later, and just ride this young man as far as you can ride him for the remainder of the season. See how far he can take you.
I 100% agree. If he's going to be your guy next year, you might as well play him now so he can
Yeah.
get all those rookie
Mhm.
mistakes, rust, learn so that next year you can come into the season feeling like you have a quarterback that has some playing experience. If you're going
Yeah.
to play him next year after not really playing him at all this year, it's like starting over and you got to go
Yeah.
through those growing pains. I don't think anyone believes the Falcons are a serious Super Bowl contender. Yes,
Mhm.
I agree with you, K Walk. I think they can make the playoffs, but I don't think Penix would stand in the way of that if they insert
No.
him at quarterback position. We talked about his quick release. He can throw the ball. He's more mobile than Kirk Cousins, was isn't saying a lot because
Saying right.
Cousins can hardly move at all. But I
Yeah.
just don't think Cousins is healthy. And when you're worried about your
Yeah.
legs and your knees and getting hit and you can't move and protect yourself, you end up throwing the ball in places that
Yeah.
normally you would not. And I think that's what we're seeing out of Cousins. He just has not looked good. I
Yeah.
think it's time to sit him down, play Penix the rest of the year, and just live with the results. But at least coming into next year that you've got a quarterback that's ready to go, that has some NFL experience, and you can go into next year, full speed ahead. So I think it's time for the Kirk Cousins experiment to be over, man.
Yeah, Jay, and not to mention when you got Michael Penix as well. If you playing for the rest of the year and he gets into the playoffs, and he's going into the new year with him having gained experience and not just regular season experience, playoff experience. And
Yep.
who's to say with Penix they can't win a wild card game, and that'll boost his confidence even more. And like we said, it's any given Sunday. The reason why we play the games. So, get them there. Even if they lose that first round, the wild card, like you said, once you come back next season in the training camp, he's going to have that experience under his belt.
Yeah, 100% agree. Good stuff, K Walk. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break here, catch our breath. When we come back, we're going to preview some of the NFL games for this upcoming week. We're going to just touch on some of the better games that we've got coming up. And then we also might predict some of these college football championship games as well. You're listening to the Sideline Speaks. Kevin Walker and Jason Collins. Do us a favor, hit that like button, share. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that as well. And we'll be right back in just a couple of seconds.
Hi, this is Coach Brian Baker, and you are watching The Sideline Speaks.
Hello, this is Marvin Lewis, and you're watching The Sideline Speaks with Brittany Jones, Jason Collins, and Kevin Walker. They're taking a break, and they will be right back.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Sideline Speaks, Kevin Walker, Jason Collins. No Brittany Jones tonight, but Britt will be back next week. All right, K Walk, we got some good ones in the NFL this coming week, and we're going to start out with a good one right here on Thursday night, man.
Tomorrow night. I mean, Thursday.
What'd you say?
No, I said I was saying tomorrow night, but then I realized
it's
Tuesday.
Yeah. Only Tuesday. I was like, man, it's tomorrow Thursday already. I'll take it. But we got the Packers and the Lions, man. Thursday night football. Two good football teams. The Lions have been outstanding, man. I just love the brand of football that they play. How do you see this thing playing out? Who wins that game on Thursday night?
Yeah, Jay, I like this one. This is going to be a very exciting one. It's an NFC North division. The Packers are still in it. It looks like right now that the Lions have, the control of that division right now, but this can change things. I mean, when you look at the Lions, I mean, they lost, they lost, Aiden Hutchinson, and I think they just lost their middle linebacker as well. So they're kind of falling into that, oh, wow, can we sustain these injuries without question? But so we're going to see, how that plays out. I think Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for the Lions, has done a great job of keeping these guys together for the most part. I know it was a close one last week, and a lot of people were saying, well, had the Bears managed the clock a little better, it may have been a different outcome, which is very true, but we don't know that. But for the most part, this offense is probably one of the best offenses, out there. Jared Goff is playing really good ball. They have the two-headed monster and Gibbs and Montgomery. Of course, they have St. Brown, they have Williams, Laporta as well. So they have some weapons, on that offensive side of the ball. So with that being said, and nothing to take away from Packers, and I like the way Jordan Love has been playing as well. His receivers, and particularly Christian Watson, he's a little inconsistent for me. He drops a lot of open passes, and not only that, he seems like he can't stay healthy as well. He seems like he's always injured or always hurt, I should say. And but Josh Jacobs is playing outstanding ball. Last couple of games, he's been really on point. So I don't know how the Raiders let him go, but then again, they let Devontae Adams go and Derek Carr go. So that says a lot. But yeah, I think this offense, and with Kraft at tight end as well, I think this is a decent offense, and their defense is playing well. So this is going to be an entertaining game. But I'm going to take the Lions in this game. The Lions are at home, but I would have taken them even if they were on the road, because I just think they're the team right now. In the NFC right now to beat. I know the Eagles are coming on strong, and all I can hear right now are Eagle fans is saying, "You're such an Eagle hater." I am an Eagle hater. I'm not gonna lie. I'm on record as saying that. So yeah, but I'm not saying that the Lions are the team to beat because I'm an Eagles hater. But the Lions right now, I think they control their own destiny. If they continue to play the ball that they've been playing, I think they're 11-1 right now. I think what they've been doing, if they can continue to do this, it's hard to beat this team.
No, I agree. I like the Lions in this one too. Like I said, I just love the brand of football they play. Tough, physical, take on the identity of the head coach. You mentioned the players that they have, good roster. They can run the ball. Like they just have all the ingredients to be a team that can win late in the year. So I'm with you. I like the Lions in this one as well.
Long as Dan Gamble, I know it's Campbell, but
I
Dan
know,
Gamble, long
I
as he
know.
doesn't mess it up, they can be good.
Yep, that's the only Achilles heel,
Yeah.
man. Trying to go for it instead of
Yeah.
taking 3 points. Coaches out there, 3 points count. It's okay to take 3 points. You don't always have to go for it.
Ask the
Man, so
Ravens. Ask the Ravens and
yep,
Justice Tucker.
some of that stuff drives me crazy, K-Walk. But you mentioned the Bears, man, and obviously they're going to play your 49ers this weekend in the
Yeah.
425 window. Before
Yeah.
we talk about the game, did you think it was the right call to fire the head coach after that debacle on Thanksgiving Day?
Absolutely, Jay. I think everyone in their right mind thought that, I mean, and I wonder if his key card, they deactivated it before he even walked off the field, Jay. I mean, that was some crazy stuff. Just not just normal fans, not someone who, watches it, in depth like you and I do, or, other people,
Yeah.
but just, the casual fans who thought that, like, what is he doing? Why is he not snapping the ball? Why is he not calling timeout? Things of that nature. So absolutely, Jay. And then there are rumors out there that guys got into it with him, because of what happened or what didn't happen, however you want to look at it. So yeah, I think it was the absolute right thing to do, Jay. Because no one was happy with that decision. So yeah, I think they made that right move. I think that's the only right move that the Bears have made, up to this point, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and we've seen like some bad clock management over the years.
What?
We've seen some
Yeah.
things that make you scratch your head. But man, this was one of the worst in my opinion. I'm
What?
sitting there watching and I'm like, okay, 36 seconds on the clock. I'm watching and they're like getting on the ball and I'm like, what are they doing? And then the time just keeps ticking and ticking. I'm like, what are they like? It was
What?
unbelievable, man. I could not believe that they just let all that time run off the clock, end up running
Yeah.
one play
One
and it
play.
basically was a nothing play too. So
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. He had to go. I think he lost the respect in the locker room. Once that happens,
Yeah.
man, you got to go. And then not to mention this just the bonehead game management that we've seen, not even only in this week, but in other weeks as well. So
Yeah.
I definitely think he had to go. Now, is this a bounce back week for your 49ers? Is this a team that they can get right against?
Jay, it better be, but yeah, I mean, I think it's right. It's the right timing for them, Jay. For one, it's a team that's not sure of themselves. They don't know who their real leader is. They haven't looked good. They've been inconsistent for the most part, meaning the Bears. They're going into San Francisco. They're going to Santa Clara, I should say. They still have some of the, pieces there with George Kittle, Debo, Jawan Jennings, and that defense. I think this is one of those, to use the term, to get right games. I think it is it's the perfect game right now, Jay, for this team, and hopefully, they get some experience from, Garindo, who's going to be toting the rock for the most part of the game. Providing that he holds on to it. His ball security kind of scares me, and just the health. That's just basically what it's about. But yeah, I think it's to steal your term. I think it's the perfect get right game for them.
Yeah, I think so. I think the 49ers win this weekend. I feel like they have to. I know that division is not running away from them. The division is definitely not running away from them. But man, it would be great to get one in the W column for that team. Again, injury riddled, down to what, their third string running back now, K-Walk.
Yeah.
Is that the third? That's the third guy
Third
that's
string,
going to start
string,
this
yeah.
weekend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
I know they're beat up, but I think they really got to win this weekend, and I think
Yeah.
they will. I think they're going to get on the right side of it this weekend. Another great one, man, is the Sunday night game. The 11-1 Kansas City Chiefs
Yeah.
up against the 8-4 Chargers. I think this could be a good football game.
Yeah.
I like the Chargers. I think they might be a little bit better than people think they are. The Chiefs are 11-1. They've been winning. We've talked about it on this show and other shows that even though they're winning, like they haven't been world beaters. They haven't been super impressive, but you have to give them credit for finding a way to win week in and week out. How do you see the Sunday night matchup, Kansas City against the Chargers?
Yeah, man, this is like a complete opposite team on my 49ers. It looks like the sports gods have their have turned their backs on the 49ers, whereas the sports gods have their hands on the Kansas City Chiefs. Did you see how they lost that game against the Raiders last week, man?
I
That's
did.
just, I mean, on Friday, yeah, that's just ridiculous. But nonetheless, yeah, I think you're right, Jay. As far as the Chargers go, they lost J.K. Dobbins, which hurts them. Gus Edwards can get it done, but he's more of a short yardage type guy. But Justin Herbert does an excellent job of getting the ball to his young receivers and Langley and Palmer and those guys. So and their defense is not bad as well, led by Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack as well. I think they're really good. I know they were in a dogfight with the Falcons this past week, but they I think they can get it done, Jay. I really, if they play their brand of ball, which is hardball, I call it hardball. Which they like to control the line of scrimmage, play really good defense. I think they can get it done, Jay. So, I think the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Chargers win this game. I think the Chiefs lose this game.
Okay.
They pretty much locked it up. So I don't know if they have, too much to play for from a motivational standpoint.
Right.
But the Chargers are one of those teams who need this game, to get into that playoff hunt. So I'm going to take the Chargers in this game. I'm taking it a close, like 27. I'm going to take 27-24.
Yeah, man, I could see it going that way. And you're right. The Chiefs, they've clinched a playoff berth, correct?
Yes,
They've
correct.
already clinched.
Mhm.
I don't think they have home field locked up because I think,
No.
think the Bills are only maybe one loss behind them.
Mhm.
So that I obviously, especially with
So you
those
wanna
two
play for that, yeah.
teams, you definitely want to have that AFC championship game at home if you can. But you're right, man. I everything that could have gone Kansas City's way this year has gone their way, whether it's a flag, a fumbled snap,
A toe.
a toe,
Big
like
toe.
anything that could happen for them has happened
Yeah.
for them, and they've been the beneficiary and have won some games because of it. I agree with you, man. I think it ends this Sunday night. I think Jim Harbaugh brings those Chargers in there and they find a way to get that win. So I'm
Yeah.
going to take the Chargers in that one as well. But it should be a good football game for sure.
Yeah.
All right, okay. Well, let's pick a couple of these college conference championship games this weekend.
Yeah.
We got some big ones with the
Yeah.
12-team playoff. Nope, I don't know. There might be a couple teams fighting for their playoff hopes, but some of these teams are going to be in win or lose. But let's kind of just run through some of the bigger games. Let's start with the ACC game. K-Wall. Clemson sort of backed their way into this game after getting beat by South Carolina this weekend.
Yeah.
It's a 3-loss football team who had no shot at getting into the college football playoff. But when Syracuse upset Miami, all of Clemson's hopes and dreams were right back in front of them. They got a chance to get in the playoff if they can beat SMU this weekend. ACC championship Saturday night at 8:00. Who do you like in this game?
Jay, I like SMU. I think SMU has been playing some really consistent football and been beating teams convincingly for the most part. I like the way they've been playing. Clemson, like you mentioned, they're a 3-loss team and they haven't been looking really good for me to me. Cade Klubnik, who I was high on, a couple of seasons ago, just seems to be an enigma for me. He can win you a game, but he can lose you a game as well. And we saw that this past Saturday. So, with all that being said, and I'm not going to put any fandom in it because I'm not a Dabo Sweeney fan by any stretch of the imagination. But I like SMU. I think they get it done. I think it's this year. Because of the fact that we don't talk about SMU a lot, and I think again what they've been doing this season has been consistent and really good football. So I'm gonna ride with the momentum, and I'm gonna ride with the team that's been the most consistent. So I'm going with the SMU. SMU
Man,
Broncos.
I'm with you too. Someone pointed this out today. SMU hasn't lost with the quarterback that's starting right now.
Right, exactly.
They're 9-0 with him under center. I think they're going to win again this weekend. You know me, I would like nothing more for Clemson to lose. So I'm definitely going with SMU in this one. So I think SMU wins and stamps their place into the college football playoff. There's another one, K-Walk. Now, these two teams I do think are fighting for their playoff lives. Iowa State and Arizona State.
Yeah, for
This
sure.
is a big one. I think the winner, whoever wins, is obviously in, but the loser, I think, is out. So this
Yeah,
is a de facto playoff game, really.
yeah.
Who do you like, Iowa State versus Arizona State in the Big 12 championship?
Yeah, I like Iowa State here, Jay. You thought Colorado had a small outside chance. I was hoping to see him, in this, but Iowa State has been the most consistent team in the Big 12. That's why they're here. Arizona kind of, to use your term, kind of backed in, if you will. They needed some help, but Iowa State, controlled their own destiny throughout the season. So I'm gonna go with Ohio State and this one. I think they win convincingly too, Jay. I mean, I think it'll be tight at first, and it'll be close at first, but I think they ultimately pull away. So I'm gonna take Iowa State. It's hard for me to predict scores for college
Yeah,
football because
yeah,
it's
because you never know.
you never know. But I'm gonna take Iowa State. By I'll say by two possessions. Two
Yeah,
possessions.
I think I'm with you. I'm not going to sit here and act like I've watched a lot of Iowa State or Arizona
Right.
State this
Right.
year. I haven't. I've seen some clips here and there of them, so I
Yeah.
really don't know who's going to win. But K Walk, I feel like you're right. Maybe Iowa State has been the more consistent team throughout the year. I don't know. We'll see. But I think I'll go Iowa State here
And
too.
plus, Jay, I have to
Um,
go as a 49er fan and my man Brock Purdy. I gotta take Iowa State, man.
yeah,
You gotta
you
take
got you
Iowa
got
State.
you got to take them. SEC championship, Georgia versus Texas. Georgia dominated Texas when they played
Yeah,
earlier in the season. To me, Texas has looked like the better team late.
yeah,
Texas has played really well. Georgia just escaped Georgia Tech in an 8
yeah.
overtime game. How do you see this one playing out? Does Georgia win again or does Texas get their revenge?
Yeah, Jay, I don't have confidence in Carson Beck, man. I don't. I really don't. We haven't we've seen him play. I know that when he played against my Gators, if DJ Lagway didn't go down, a lot of people, not just myself, a lot of people thought that the Florida would have won that game had DJ went down with that hamstring injury. But and Texas has somewhat of a two-headed monster. I think Sarkisian uses those guys, meaning Ewers
Yeah.
and Manning, kind of
Yep.
put them in the right spots in the right time. So I'm going to take a Texas in this one, man. I know they have one of the best defensive lines out there, but I just like the quarterback play of Texas. So I'm going to take Texas in this one in a close one late I'll say by 6. They win by 6. They get Georgia this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think Texas played their worst game of the year when they played Georgia earlier. Georgia
Mm-hmm.
controlled the line of script. I just don't think that's going to happen again. I think they're going to have a better plan this time. I don't think they're going to make some of the mistakes that they made before. Georgia has been very up and down. Like if
Yeah.
Georgia plays their A game, okay, maybe. But if
Yeah.
they don't, which they haven't several times this year, I'm just not convinced they're going to beat Texas. I agree with you. I think Texas gets the win. Their first season in the SEC, I think they're going
Yeah.
to be the SEC
Wow.
champion. So
Wow.
I like Texas as well. All right, man. I saved the big one for last. The mighty Oregon Ducks taking on my Penn State Nittany Lions Saturday night, 8 o'clock, Big Ten Championship. Like I said, man, everything I've read's got us losing. I've seen people saying we're going to get blown out by 50. I'm like, we don't ever get blown out. Like
Yeah.
we've lost some games to Ohio State, we've lost some games to Michigan, but they don't blow us out. So I don't think it's going to be a blowout, K-Walk. But how do you see this thing going, man? The Ducks versus the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, Jay, man. I'm not a Penn State fan, because of what y'all did to us back in the '90s, man. When I was on that team, and it was not so happy valley for me. But I'm throwing all that out. I'm throwing that all out there, Jay. I'm throwing that out the window. But yeah, I gotta go with the Ducks, Jay. I'm not gonna say it's not a blowout. I don't see why people think it's gonna be a blowout. Because Penn State's ranked number 3 for a reason, and they always find a way to stay in the game. Even the game against Ohio State, they were in that game with one play in the back of the end zone
Yep.
with bounced off a guy's chest and the one guy was able
Yep.
to control it. It's always one play with these guys, one possession, I should say. I'm going to take Oregon by. I'm going to take Oregon by a one possession game, Jay. I just think they're the team to beat right now. They, and nothing against you, Nittany Lions, because they again, Alar and my guy. I have somewhat of a man crush on this guy, man, and that's Tyler Warren, man. That dude can do everything. If y'all can use him, that boy can play. That young man can play, man. And your running game as well, and your defense plays outstanding. Not sometimes, but for the most part, they fly to the ball. They make big plays. So, but with all that being said, Jay, I gotta take the Oregon Ducks, man. I gotta take the Oregon Ducks in a one possession game. I'll say by 5. It's not gonna be a blowout by any stretch of the imagination. They're gonna have to bring their A game for sure. It's gonna be an entertaining one for sure.
Yeah. That's not a bad pick, K-Walk. To me, this is one of those games where I will be able to tell after 2 series. Like if we can stop their running game, I think we have a chance. Yeah. And if we can run the ball a little bit, I think we have a good chance. Yeah. But if the first time we get the ball and we try to run it and they stuff us and then they get it and they're getting yards, it could be a long night for us. Yeah. But you're right, man. Defensively, we got some guys that can go. We got some guys that can absolutely get after the passer. Abdul Carter is one of the best in the country, defensive end. You cannot hold the ball against this guy because he will wreck your backfield. So we got some guys that can wreak a little bit of havoc defensively. I'm just concerned about our offensive line. We lost our starting right tackle a few weeks ago. He was the best lineman on our team. So I'm a little concerned there. And then our starting safety, who's been out almost the whole year, boy, it would be nice to have him back for a game like this, but he won't be back. But like you always say, K-Walk, there's no excuses. Next man up. I think we find a way to get it done. I think Andy Kotelnicki, the offensive coordinator, is going to dial up a few tricks. I think Tyler Warren's going to have a big night. And I like the Nittany Lions. I think it's going to be high scoring, man. I like the Nittany Lions 30-27 in this one. I'm going to take Penn State to pull off the victory. And I think if they win, they might get the number 1 seed in the college football playoff. So there'll be a lot of fun. A lot of fun if it happens, K-Walk. A lot of fun if it happens. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I saved the best for last because we're going to end it right there. We appreciate you guys sticking around. Before we get out of here, though, K-Walk, let the people know where they can find you. Plug the other shows that you do and what you're looking forward to this week.
Absolutely, guys. You can find me on Facebook, Kevin Walker, X, formerly known as Twitter, at Kevin Walker 142, Instagram, Kevin.Walker 142, and you can catch me tomorrow night, Sports Talk with K-Walk. E. Scott, Never Had It So Good Sports Radio, 7 p.m. live, ladies and gentlemen. Wherever you get your podcast, please check us out there. Again, Sports Talk, K-Walk, E. Scott. The link will be on all of the social media accounts I just mentioned, so please check that out. Jay, I appreciate you filling in last week for E. Scott. Great show, by the way. So if you can jump on tomorrow night, it would be greatly appreciated, brother. But if not, we understand. But that's where you can catch me. And what I'm looking forward to is big game for my Tar Heels tomorrow night. Play Alabama, and then we talked about Thursday. Obviously, Thursday the Lions and the Packers, and then just more football. The conference championships and more NFL football. So we got a plethora of sports still holding on right now, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep. A lot of great sports still coming our way. Before I go, let me just shout out my sister Heather.
Hey, Heather.
Tuning in. What's up, Heather? We appreciate you listening.
Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Appreciate you stopping by. Yeah, K-Walk, you guys can find me at Jason Talk Sports on all the social media platforms at Jason Talk Sports. Yeah, man, football, and more football this week, especially this weekend with the conference championship games. I know we're in the thick of football season, but I got to say, Thursday night, there's some really good women's college basketball games on. South Carolina plays on Thursday night. I want to say maybe Notre Dame plays as well on Thursday night in a separate game. So a couple of good Thursday night games for women's college basketball. So I'm going to have one TV on the NFL game, another TV on the women's college basketball. So definitely a lot of good stuff to look forward to this week. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you guys listening. No Brittany Jones tonight, so we always get out a little bit early when Britt's not here. Do us a favor, like, share, subscribe. and we will definitely be back next Tuesday at 7 p.m. So for Kevin Walker, I'm Jason Collins. We'll see you guys next week.